He walked into the luxury dealership alone, asking to buy an entire fleet. The staff laughed and ignored him. But when a document slipped from his hands and someone read the name on it, faces drained of color. Hands began to tremble, and everyone fell into stunned silence. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. Good morning, Mrs. Garcia. Got your vitamins today? Jake Parker handed the small box to the elderly woman at her door. The Miami sun was already hot on his back. You are a good boy, Jake. Always so early, she said, smiling. Trying to beat the heat, he said, returning her smile. He adjusted the bright yellow backpack on his shoulder. You stay cool in there, okay? He walked back to his van, its engine rumbling softly. The van was old and white, with a faded delivery company logo on the side. It was just past 7 in the morning. Jake loved this time of day. The city was waking up. The light was soft and golden. His next stop was a tall office building. He held the door open for a man in a suit carrying 2 coffee cups. The man nodded a quick thanks without making eye contact. Jake didn't mind. He took the service elevator to the 4th floor and left a package at a reception desk. Have a great day, he said to the receptionist. You too, she said, already looking at her computer screen. Back in his van, he took a long drink of water. He wore a simple gray shirt and old, comfortable jeans. His clothes were clean but plain. They were perfect for the job. He felt the familiar weight of his backpack. It was almost like a part of him. By 11 o'clock, he had finished half his route. He parked near a construction site. One of the workers, a man named Ray, waved at him. Jake, you got my new knee pads in that magic bag? Not today, Ray, Jake laughed. He reached into a small cooler in his van. But I have something else. He pulled out a cold bottle of water and tossed it to him. Ray caught it. You're a lifesaver. This heat is no joke. Tell me about it, Jake said. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Stay safe. He finished the last of his deliveries just after 2 in the afternoon. That was early for him. He usually worked until 4 or 5. He sat in the driver's seat of his van and smiled. A good day. A full day. He had helped Mrs. Garcia, he had made Ray smile, and all his packages were delivered. He started the van. He had a plan for his extra time. A special plan he had been thinking about for weeks. He drove across town. The buildings became taller and shinier. He passed fancy shops and restaurants. He finally pulled into a parking lot. He parked his old white van between 2 sleek, expensive cars. In front of him was a huge glass building. The letters above the door were big and silver. They said, Thompson Luxury Motors. Jake turned off the engine. He patted the dashboard of his van. Wish me luck, he said quietly. He grabbed his yellow backpack and a simple brown folder. He got out of the van. The sun gleamed on the glass building. He could see beautiful, shiny cars inside. He took a deep breath. He was excited. Today was the day he would buy the gifts. He walked toward the big glass doors. He pushed one open and stepped inside. The air was instantly cool. It smelled like leather and clean floors. The floor was so shiny he could see his reflection. All around him were the most beautiful cars he had ever seen. They were red, silver, blue, and black. They looked like they were going 100 miles an hour just standing still. Jake smiled. He walked further into the showroom, his sneakers quiet on the shiny floor. He looked for someone to talk to. He saw 3 men standing together near a big wooden desk. They wore very nice suits. They looked important. Jake walked right up to them. He held his folder in his hands. He gave them his best polite smile. Hello, Jake said. I would like to buy 10 of your most expensive cars, please. I can pay in cash. The cool, quiet air of the showroom felt like a different world. Brad Thompson adjusted his tie in the reflection of a crimson sports car's window. He turned back to the 2 younger men with him. See that couple by the silver sedan? Brad said to Kevin and Mike. Watch this. This is how you close a deal before they even know they want one. Kevin Miller stood up straighter, trying to smooth the front of his suit jacket. Mike Rodriguez just sighed softly, his arms crossed over his chest. Brad walked over, his smile wide and bright. Good afternoon. That's a magnificent choice. The handling on that model is like a dream. Are you in town for long? The woman, dressed in a stylish linen dress, smiled back. We're just browsing, really. Of course, of course. A car like this isn't just a purchase. It's an experience. Let me get you some sparkling water, and I can tell you about the exclusive financing options we offer to our preferred clients." Brad led them toward his desk, talking without pause. Kevin watched, his eyes wide. "He makes it look so easy." Mike uncrossed his arms and shoved his hands in his pockets. "He makes it look like a show. They're just people, Kevin. They want a car. He's selling them a fairy tale." "But it works," Kevin said, fidgeting with the expensive pen clipped to his pocket. "Did you see his numbers last month? I need to learn how he does that." A man in wrinkled khakis and a polo shirt wandered near a luxury SUV. He peered at the price sticker. Mike saw him. Brad, from his desk, also saw him. Brad gave a tiny, almost invisible shake of his head. Mike understood. He turned his back, pretending to study something on his phone. The man walked around the car for a few more minutes, then left. No one spoke to him. "See?" Mike muttered. "Wrong clothes. No sale. That's the real rule." "It's not about the clothes," Kevin said, repeating what Brad always told him. "It's about recognizing who is serious. We can't waste time on every person who walks in off the street." Another pair entered, a man and a woman both wearing designer clothes and large sunglasses. Brad was still with his first couple. He caught Kevin's eye and nodded sharply toward the new customers. "Go on, Kevin," Mike said, a tired smile on his face. "Your turn. Remember, sell the dream." Kevin hurried over, his own smile feeling tight on his face. "Welcome to Thompson Luxury Motors. What brings you in today?" His voice sounded a little too high. The man didn't remove his sunglasses. "Just looking. The new convertible." "Oh, excellent. That's my personal favorite. The acceleration is incredible." Kevin's mind went blank. He couldn't remember the engine details Mike had explained to him last week. "It's really, really fast." Brad returned to where Mike was standing, the first couple now sitting at his desk with brochures. "See? They're already talking numbers. It's all about confidence, Mike. You have to project success to attract success." Mike just nodded. He was thinking about his daughter, Sophia. Her school tuition was due next week. This week's commission would cover it, but only if he sold something. He scanned the showroom, not seeing a real buyer, just more looky-loos. Brad looked at his own reflection in the glass of a display case. "My father built this place. He says a real salesman can spot a buyer from 100 feet away. You have to develop an eye for it. It's in the walk, the watch, the feel of a person." The glass front doors slid open, letting in a brief wave of humid Miami air. All three men glanced over. A young man walked in. He wore a simple gray t-shirt and old blue jeans. A bright yellow backpack was slung over one shoulder. He looked around, his eyes taking in the cars with a quiet appreciation. He didn't walk with the swagger of wealth or the nervousness of someone who knew they didn't belong. He just walked in like he was entering a coffee shop. Brad's expression flattened. He turned his back completely. "Oh, wonderful. A delivery got lost. Probably has a package for the service department. Don't make eye contact, Kevin. He'll ask for directions and waste 10 minutes. Kevin's eager smile dropped. He followed Brad's lead and turned away, pretending to be very interested in a car's headlight. Mike watched the young man for a second longer. The guy's clothes were clean but simple. His sneakers were practical, not fancy. He carried a plain brown folder. Mike felt a familiar, bitter disappointment. Not a buyer, just another person taking up space, making the air conditioning work harder. Mike let out a slow breath and looked down at the shiny floor, waiting for the guy to leave. The young man, however, did not head toward the service bay. He walked right past the glittering cars. His steps were direct. He was walking straight toward the main desk, straight toward them. The young man stopped in front of the big wooden desk. He looked at Brad, then at Kevin, then at Mike. He had a kind face, and his eyes were a friendly green. He held the brown folder gently in his hands. "Hello," he said again, his voice calm and polite. "Could one of you help me, please?" Brad turned around slowly. He looked the young man up and down. He saw the gray shirt, the jeans, the backpack. He did not smile. "The service department is around the back of the building. You can't come through the front showroom." "Oh, I'm not here for service," the young man said. He shook his head slightly. "I'm here to buy some cars." Kevin let out a small, nervous chuckle. He quickly stopped when Brad shot him a look. "To buy," Brad repeated, his voice flat. He leaned one hand on the desk. "Okay, what did you have in mind?" "We have some pre-owned compact cars in the lot outside. A salesman out there can help you." The young man, Jake, did not look toward the outside lot. He glanced around the beautiful showroom. "No thank you. I'd like the cars from in here. Your very best ones." He opened his folder and looked at a note he had written. "I would like to buy 10 of them. Your 10 most expensive models. I can pay in cash." The silence that followed was heavy. Mike, who had been staring at the floor, slowly lifted his head. His tired eyes focused on Jake's face, searching for a joke. Brad's lips stretched into a wide, humorless smile. He looked at Kevin, then back at Jake. 10 cars, in cash." "Yes, sir," Jake said. He nodded. He seemed completely serious. A loud, sharp laugh burst from Brad. It was not a happy sound. It was a sound of disbelief and dismissal. "You hear this, guys? He wants 10 luxury vehicles, paid in cash. You know, we get a lot of comedians in Miami, but you might be the best one yet." Kevin shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He forced a smile, following Brad's lead. "Yeah, man, come on. This is a serious place. We're busy here." Mike didn't laugh. He just studied Jake. He saw the clean but worn clothes. He saw the honest expression. He saw no sign of a trick. He saw a young man who genuinely believed he could walk in and make this deal. A deep feeling of sadness and irritation settled in Mike's chest. This was just depressing. "It's not a joke," Jake said. His smile had faded. His voice was quieter now, but still clear. "I have the money. I just need to know which cars you recommend and we can finish the paperwork." Brad straightened up. His playful act vanished, replaced by cold impatience. "Let me make this very simple for you. People who buy 10 cars at once do not wear delivery uniforms. They do not carry backpacks. They call ahead. They meet with the general manager. They do not wander in off the street." He pointed a finger toward the gleaming glass doors. "You are wasting my time and my associates' time. The exit is right there. Don't make me call security to escort a delivery boy out." Jake flinched at the words delivery boy. The light in his green eyes seemed to dim. He looked at Brad's angry face, then at Kevin's nervous one, and finally at Mike's resigned expression. He closed his folder. His shoulders dropped just a little. The hopeful energy he had walked in with was gone. He simply looked tired. "Okay," he said softly, almost to himself. "I understand." He turned around. He began to walk back across the vast, shiny floor toward the doors and the hot Miami sun outside. The 3 salesmen watched him go, a mix of annoyance and relief in their posture. As he turned, the edge of his folder caught on the strap of his yellow backpack. A single, white piece of paper slipped out. It fluttered, turning over once in the cool, canned air, and landed silently on the perfect floor, face up. Jake kept walking. He didn't hear the paper fall. His footsteps were quiet on the polished floor. The only sound was the distant, soft music playing in the showroom. He felt a hollow ache in his chest. He just wanted to get outside, back to his van, back to his normal day. Brad watched him go with a smirk of satisfaction. Then his eyes dropped to the floor. He saw the white paper lying there. "Typical," Brad muttered. "Trash on the floor. Can't even keep his litter to himself." He walked over, his expensive shoes clicking on the hard surface. He bent down, intending to crumple the paper into a ball and toss it into the nearest trash can. It was just one more mess from an annoying person. He picked it up. It was a simple piece of printer paper. He started to fold it in his fingers. His eyes, almost out of habit, glanced at the printed text at the top. He stopped folding. He blinked. He brought the paper closer to his face. His smirk vanished, wiped away like chalk from a board. His breath caught in his throat. The color drained from his tanned face, leaving his skin a sickly pale shade. His hands, which had been so confident a moment before, began to tremble. The paper rattled softly in his grip. Kevin noticed the change. "Brad, you okay, man? What is it? Some stupid joke he left behind?" Brad did not answer. He could not speak. He just stared at the paper, his eyes wide with pure, undisguised horror. "Brad?" Kevin's voice was more urgent now. He took a step closer. Slowly, as if moving through thick mud, Brad turned the paper around. He held it out for Kevin to see. His arm was shaking. He pointed a trembling finger at the top line of the document. Kevin leaned in, his brow furrowed. He read the line. His own smile, the nervous one he had forced earlier, melted away. His mouth fell open. His face turned the same ghostly white as Brad's. "No way," Kevin whispered. The words were barely audible. That can't be right." "What?" Mike asked, his voice flat. He had been watching the whole thing with detached boredom. "What does it say? A fake ID or something?" Kevin, moving like a robot, took the paper from Brad's limp hand. He turned and showed it to Mike. His own hands were now shaking too. Mike squinted at it. He read the formal typed letters at the top. It was a bank document. A very specific, very private kind of bank document. And the name printed beside primary account holder was not Jake Parker. It read, Jacob Parker Wellington IV. Mike's entire body went rigid. His arms, which had been crossed, fell to his sides. His tired eyes widened, all traces of boredom replaced by instant, gut-churning dread. He knew that name. Everyone who read the news knew that name. A heavy, terrible silence descended on their corner of the showroom. The soft music from the speakers seemed to fade away. All three men stood frozen, staring at the piece of paper that now felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Across the room, Jake reached the glass doors. He pushed one open, the heat from outside rushing in. He stepped out into the Miami sun, the door swinging shut behind him, completely unaware of the storm he had left brewing inside. The door clicked shut behind Jake. Inside the showroom, the silence was absolute. The three salesmen stood in a tight, frozen circle around the piece of paper. Brad finally found his voice. It was a dry, cracked whisper. Jacob Parker Wellington IV. "It's a fake," Kevin blurted out, his eyes darting around as if looking for an escape. "It has to be a fake, a printout. Anyone can type a name." Mike took the paper from Kevin's shaking hand. He looked at it more carefully. He saw the official bank logo, the intricate watermark visible when held to the light, the unique reference number. His stomach turned to ice. "It's not fake," he said, his voice low and hollow. "This is a private asset confirmation from Sterling Trust. You can't fake this watermark. My cousin works at a bank. I've seen these." "Wellington," Brad repeated the name, as if it were a curse. His mind was racing, flashing to news articles, business magazines, the Wellington family, New York old money, banks, real estate, tech investments, a name synonymous with quiet, immense power. His father, Jacob III, he's on the board of half of Wall Street. Kevin put a hand over his mouth. "We just told a Wellington to get out. We laughed at him." His voice trembled. He wanted to buy 10 cars, in cash. Oh my God, he was telling the truth. Brad's mind snapped from shock to sheer, animal terror. He grabbed the paper back from Mike. "Do you have any idea what his father does to people who cross him? Any idea? He doesn't get mad. He gets even. He ruins people. He buys their debts. He gets them fired. He makes phone calls." Brad's eyes were wild. "He could call my father. He could own this dealership by lunchtime tomorrow. We're dead. We're finished. We're not just fired. We're blacklisted. We'll never work in this town again." A well-dressed couple nearby glanced over at the raised, panicked whispers. Brad forced a grotesque, trembling smile at them before turning his back, his expression collapsing back into terror. Mike was thinking faster, more clearly. The initial shock was giving way to a cold, practical fear. He was paying with his own money. "Look." He pointed a thick finger at the paper still in Brad's hand. "That account number. That's a private wealth management account. It's his, not his father's. He has his own money. A lot of it." "What does that matter?" Kevin hissed, tears of panic brimming in his eyes. "He's a Wellington. We insulted a Wellington. I need this job, Brad. I have rent. My girlfriend. I told her this job was my big break." "It matters," Mike said, his voice grim, "because we didn't just insult some rich kid using daddy's credit card. We insulted a man who walked in here to spend his own fortune, his own saved money, and we treated him like dirt." The shame of it hit him then, hot and sharp. He thought of his daughter Sophia and the proud smile she had when he told her he sold a car. What would she think of him now? Brad was breathing too fast, his hand pressed against his forehead. "We have to fix this. We have to get him back in here. We have to apologize. We have to give him the cars. We have to get on our knees if we have to." "But he left," Kevin moaned. "He's gone. He's probably halfway across Miami by now, calling his father." As if on cue, a sound pierced the tense silence. It was not from inside the showroom. It came from outside the glass doors. A phone was ringing. The three men's heads snapped toward the sound. On the sidewalk just beyond the gleaming glass, they saw him. Jake Parker, Jacob Wellington, had stopped walking. He was standing there in the bright sun, looking down at the phone in his hand. He hadn't gotten into his van yet. He was still right there. He looked at the screen, his shoulders slumping slightly. He swiped his finger to answer and put the phone to his ear. They couldn't hear his words, but they could see his face through the glass. They saw his expression change from sadness to surprise, then to deep concern. He ran a hand through his sun-lightened hair, turning slightly away from the building. Inside the showroom, Brad, Kevin, and Mike didn't dare to breathe. They just watched, waiting for their fate to be decided by the conversation happening 15 feet away. The phone felt hot against Jake's ear. The voice on the other end was loud and sharp with panic. "Jake? Jake, are you there? What in the world are you doing?" "Savannah, what's wrong?" Jake asked, his heart starting to beat faster. He could hear his sister's frantic breathing. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" "I just got a call from Diana in Father's office. A luxury car dealership in Miami called the main Wellington Holdings line. They wanted to verify the identity of a Jacob Wellington IV attempting a multi-million-dollar purchase. Jake, they called Dad's office." Jake closed his eyes. A wave of cold dread washed over him, worse than the one he felt inside the showroom. "They did what? Why would they call there?" "Because you used your real name on something, you goof. They said they had a bank document. They were doing their due diligence on a large cash transaction. Of course, they called the main family office to check if it was real or fraud." Jake leaned against the side of his delivery van. The metal was warm from the sun. "I didn't think. It was just an account statement. I needed it to prove I had the funds. I didn't think they'd call New York." "Well, they did," Savannah's voice crackled. "And Diana, being the perfect assistant, took the message. And who do you think she gave that message to, Jake?" He knew. "Father." "Yes, Father. And he is not happy. He is the opposite of happy." He said, "He's doing what? In Miami?" Then he told David to get the jet ready. "Jake, he's coming. He's probably in the air right now." Jake's stomach twisted into a tight knot. His father hated Miami. He called it a tacky playground. He thought Jake's life here was a silly rebellion. "He can't just show up and stop me. It's my money, Savannah. I saved it from my job. It doesn't matter to him. You know how he is. He thinks you're throwing away your potential. He thinks this car thing is nonsense. And now he has proof you're using the Wellington name to buy, what, sports cars? He's going to blow a gasket." Inside the showroom, the three men watched Jake's face. They saw him press his fingers to his forehead. They saw him shake his head. They couldn't hear the words, but the body language screamed bad news. For them. "He's coming to stop me," Jake said quietly, more to himself than to his sister. "Yes, he is. You have about 2 hours, maybe 3. What are you going to do?" Savannah's voice softened slightly. "Do you need me to come down there?" No, stay there. This is my mess." Jake looked back at the glass doors of Thompson Luxury Motors. Through the reflection, he could see the 3 salesmen huddled together staring at him. They looked like ghosts. "I have to deal with this here first. Be careful, Jakey, please. He's really angry." "I know. Thanks, Van." He ended the call and let his hand fall to his side. He stood there for a long moment, the sun beating down on him. The secret was out. The carefully constructed wall between Jake Parker and Jacob Wellington had just been smashed to pieces by a single phone call from a scared car dealership. He turned slowly. He faced the glass doors again. He looked past his own reflection, directly at Brad, Kevin, and Mike. They flinched as his eyes met theirs. They knew he knew. Jake took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the hot, humid air. The simple day was gone. The choice was now right in front of him. He could walk to his van, drive away, and let his father's arrival deal with the men who had laughed at him. That would be the easy thing, the expected Wellington thing. Or, he looked at their terrified faces. He thought about why he had walked in there in the first place. It wasn't to show off. It was to do something kind for the family he still loved, with the honest money he had earned. He reached for the door handle. The glass door swung open. A wave of heat followed Jake inside, then was cut off as the door closed behind him. The cool, conditioned air felt heavy now. The entire showroom was watching. The well-dressed couple by the sedan had stopped talking. A mechanic peeking from the service door stood still. Jake walked back across the shiny floor. His footsteps were the only sound. He stopped in front of the 3 salesmen. They looked like they were waiting for a judge to speak. Brad was the first to move. He thrust the white paper toward Jake, his hand trembling. Mr. Wellington, sir, your document. We didn't realize. Jake took the paper. He didn't look at it. He put it back into his folder. He looked at their faces, Brad's terror, Kevin's shame, Mike's grim dread. You called my father's office, Jake said. His voice was quiet, flat. Brad's mouth opened and closed like a fish. It's procedure. For very large transactions. We had to verify. We thought maybe the document was stolen. You thought I was a thief, Jake stated. No, not a thief, just we made a mistake. A huge, horrible mistake. Brad's words tumbled out. Please, sir, let us make this right. The cars, 10 cars, of course. We can have the paperwork ready in an hour. We can offer a significant discount, anything you want. Kevin nodded furiously, tears still glistening in his eyes. We're so sorry. We were stupid. We judged you wrong. Mike didn't speak. He just watched Jake, waiting for the axe to fall. Jake shook his head slowly. He wasn't looking at the cars anymore. He was looking past them, at a memory. I didn't want any of this, he said, more to himself than to them. I didn't want the name. I didn't want you to see it. Why? The words slipped out of Mike. It was rough, genuine. Why hide who you are? Jake met Mike's eyes. Because of this. Exactly this. He gestured at their suits, at the glittering showroom. My name is Jacob Parker Wellington IV. I grew up in a house in New York so big you could get lost in it. My father is Jacob III. He owns companies. He sits on boards. He expects certain things. Jake took a slow breath, the weight of his old life pressing down on him in this place. He expected me to be a certain person, to wear suits, to go to the right parties, to talk about money and power. I felt like I was in a cage. Every smile was for a camera. Every handshake was a business deal. No one ever saw me. They only saw the last name. Brad listened, confused. To him, this sounded like a dream. To Jake, it was a prison. 2 years ago, I left, Jake continued. I had a big fight with my father. He said I was a soft dreamer. He said I would fail. I took my mother's last name, Parker. She understood. I moved here to Miami. I got a job delivering packages. I saved every dollar I earned. He looked down at his own gray shirt. I wear this because it's my uniform. It means I did an honest day's work. I help Mrs. Garcia with her packages. I bring water to Ray on the construction site. They smile at me because they like me, not because they want something from my family. For the first time in my life, I earned my own smiles. He looked back at the 3 men. My mother, my sister, my cousins. They are all coming to visit me tomorrow. They are the only ones in my family who still treat me like a person. I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to use my own saved money, not my father's fortune, to give them a great vacation. I wanted to rent them amazing cars. That's why I came here. That's all. The silence returned, but it was a different kind of silence. The fear in the salesman's eyes was now mixed with something else, a dawning, horrible understanding. They hadn't just insulted a rich client. They had mocked a young man's pride. They had laughed at his honest savings. They had tried to crush the very thing he had built to escape his gilded cage. Jake's words hung in the air. The truth, simple and stark, made the shiny showroom feel cheap. Brad, Kevin, and Mike weren't just looking at a rich man they had offended. They were looking at a man whose entire life was a rejection of everything they thought was important. Brad's mind was a whirlwind of panic, but now it focused on one clear, terrifying image: his own father's face. Not Jake's father. Asterisk. His asterisk father. The man who owned this dealership. My dad, Brad whispered, his voice breaking. He looked at Kevin and Mike, but he was talking to himself. He's playing golf with the mayor right now. If the mayor gets a call from New York, if Wellington tells him my family's business is run by idiots who insult his son, he put a hand over his stomach as if he was going to be sick. He'll disown me. He'll give the dealership to my cousin. I'll have nothing. My wife, she'll leave. She only stays for the lifestyle. The perfect and imposing figure of Brad Thompson was gone. In its place was a scared little boy. Kevin's fear was less about power and more about survival. His thoughts jumped to his small apartment, the one he shared with his girlfriend Chloe. He saw the rent notice on the fridge. He heard her voice from just last night. I'm so proud of you for sticking with that sales job. I know it's tough, but we're building a future. Chloe, Kevin muttered, his face pale. He bit the inside of his cheek hard. She's a nurse. She works 12-hour shifts helping people. And I just stood here and laughed at someone for looking poor. The guilt was a physical pain. She thinks I'm a good person. What if she finds out? What if I have to tell her I got fired for being a jerk? He looked at his hands, the hands that had gestured for Jake to leave. I need this job. I don't have savings. I have nothing. Mike's thoughts were in a small, sunny classroom across town. His daughter, Sophia, was drawing a picture. She was drawing her dad at work, selling a big, shiny car. She was so proud of him. Mike's usual tired sarcasm was gone, replaced by a deep, cold dread. It wasn't about his pride. It was about her. Sophia's tuition, Mike said aloud, his voice a low rumble. The after-school art program. She loves it. It's the only thing that... it makes her light up. He looked directly at Jake, and for the first time, there was no barrier. There was only raw honesty and fear. I need this job to pay for that. I'm a single dad. It's just me and her. If I get fired... He couldn't finish the sentence. The idea of telling his 8-year-old daughter that her art class was over because he was cruel to a stranger was unbearable. He had become the kind of person he hated, a person who judged a book by its cover, and now his child might pay the price. The three men stood in a shared pool of misery. Their reasons were different, but the result was the same: utter ruin. They had built their lives on a fragile idea that they could judge worth by appearance. That idea had just exploded in their faces. They all looked at Jake. He held their futures in his hands. He could walk away, one word to his father, and by the end of the day, they would be cleaning out their desks. Brad finally found a thread of his salesman's voice, but it was cracked and pleading. Mr. Wellington, Jake, please, we are begging you. Give us a chance to fix it. We'll do anything. We were ignorant. We were fools. Kevin just nodded, unable to form more words, his eyes wide with hope and terror. Mike didn't beg. He just waited, his strong mechanic's hands hanging limp at his sides, his fate and his daughter's now entirely in the hands of the delivery man in the gray shirt. The whole showroom was silent, waiting for Jake to speak, waiting for his judgment. Jake listened to their pleas. He saw the raw fear in Brad's eyes, the shame in Kevin's, the desperate worry for a daughter in Mike's. But a clock was now ticking loudly in his own mind, drowning out their voices. My father, Jake said, cutting through the tension. He's on his way here. The words landed like a physical blow. Brad took a step back as if pushed. His private jet left New York almost an hour ago, Jake continued, his voice still quiet but urgent. He'll be at Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport in less than 2 hours. Then he'll come straight here. Kevin made a small, choked sound. Mike closed his eyes for a second, absorbing this new layer of disaster. He isn't coming because you were rude to me, Jake said. He looked at the piece of paper in his folder. He's coming because you called his office, because the Wellington name was used. He thinks I'm here playing a game with his money, making a spectacle. He hates spectacles, and he hates Miami. Jake put his folder down on the big wooden desk. He felt a storm of emotions inside. Sadness, anger, frustration. He was angry at the salesmen for their instant judgment. He was angry at the world for making a last name matter more than a person. But most of all, he felt a deep, old anxiety about his father. It was a feeling he had come to Miami to escape. My father, Jake explained, thinks my life here is a joke. He thinks delivering packages is beneath our family. He wanted me to run a part of the business, to be a Wellington man. When I left, he said I would come crawling back. He's been waiting for me to fail. Jake looked out the glass doors, as if he could already see a black car pulling up. Now he thinks this is it. He thinks I'm trying to spend a fortune on cars to prove something. He doesn't know I saved for this. He won't care. He will walk in here and he will take control. He will fire all of you just to make a point to me. He will cancel everything. Then he will try to take me back to New York. The full picture of the disaster was now clear. It wasn't just about the salesmen losing their jobs. Jake was about to lose everything he had built too. His independence, his quiet life, his proof that he could make it on his own. Brad saw a sliver of hope, a shared enemy. Then we can't let him do that, sir. We can complete the sale right now, before he gets here. It'll be done. He can't cancel a completed transaction with your own funds. For what? Jake asked, turning back to him. His green eyes were serious. So you can keep your jobs? So you can say you sold 10 cars to a Wellington? That's the only reason you want to help now. Because of the name, not because of me. You still don't see me asterisk. Brad opened his mouth but had no answer. Jake looked at the beautiful silent cars. He thought of his family arriving tomorrow. His mother's kind smile, his sister's hug. He wanted to give them this gift. He wanted to show them his new home, his new life, on his own terms. But his father's shadow was about to cover it all. He had a choice, but it was bigger than whether to forgive 3 salesmen. It was about what he would defend, the life he chose or the life he was born into. The air in the showroom felt electric. Everyone was waiting for Jake's next move. He had minutes, maybe an hour, to decide the course of everything. He looked from the terrified men to the cars and then toward the doors, where his future was speeding toward him from the airport. Jake looked at the doors. He imagined his father walking through them. He thought about the cold expression, the sharp words, the way his father could make a room feel small and silent. He had run from that 2 years ago. He then looked at the 3 men in front of him. He saw their fear. It was a real human fear, not about stock prices or social status, but about fathers and girlfriends and daughters, about rent and art classes. He thought about why he left New York. It wasn't to become powerful enough to crush people who were rude to him. That was his father's way. He left to build a life where kindness meant more than money. He took a deep breath. The storm inside him settled into a calm, clear decision. "Okay," Jake said. His voice was firm now. "Listen carefully. We don't have much time." Brad, Kevin, and Mike leaned forward, their entire beings focused on him. "I am going to buy the cars," Jake said. "All 10, with my money, the money I earned. But we are going to do it my way." "Anything," Brad breathed. "Whatever you say," Jake pointed at Brad. You are not doing this for a commission. You are doing this to help a client with a large family gift. You will not put your name on the sale. You will give the commission credit to him." Jake pointed at Mike. Mike's head jerked up, stunned. "Why?" Brad asked, confused. "Because he asked me why," Jake said simply. "He was the only one who wanted to understand, and because he has a daughter to take care of." Mike stared at Jake, his eyes glistening. He gave one short, stiff nod. Jake turned to Kevin. You will go to the service department right now. You will get 2 large vans, the biggest ones they have for customer shuttle service. You will bring them to the front. You will have the keys ready." Kevin blinked. "Vans? But the luxury cars? My family is big. They have luggage. They need space first. Shiny cars later. Go now." Kevin jumped into action, almost running toward the service bay. Finally, Jake looked at Mike. "You know cars. Really know them. Not just how to sell them. Pick 10. They need to be reliable, comfortable, and safe. Not just the fastest or the flashiest. Can you do that?" Mike stood up straighter. A flicker of his old pride from when he was a mechanic who fixed things returned to his eyes. "Yes, I can." "Do it. Start the paperwork. Use the name on that document. There's no hiding it now. But the point of contact is me, Jake Parker, my phone number, my email." The showroom, which had been still, suddenly erupted into controlled chaos. Mike moved with a purpose he hadn't shown in years, heading for the file room. Brad scrambled to pull up inventory on the computer, calling out model numbers. Jake walked to the big glass doors. He looked out at the parking lot, at his old delivery van. In about an hour and a half, a black luxury car would pull in there. His father would step out. He wasn't sure what he would say to him, but for the first time, he knew what he was defending. He wasn't just defending his choice to buy cars. He was defending his choice to be kind in a world that taught his father to be hard. He was defending the life he built, one delivered package and one honest smile at a time. The sound of a large engine made him turn. Kevin was pulling 2 big, shiny black passenger vans around to the front of the building. The first part of his plan was ready. Jake turned his back to the doors, facing the busy showroom. He was no longer just Jake Parker, the delivery driver. He was also Jacob Wellington, the man who was about to meet his father on his own terms.